Hello, everyone. It's your favorite show, Final Voice Show. Gives you nothing but the best. Today we talk about Africa. That is Africa in perspective. How do some people in Germany view Africa? If you are in Germany, I ask you, how do you view Africa living in Germany? To me, on my extreme right here is Mr. Mitchell. It's not new for him to mention his own name. I know his name. Viewers know his name. So he's on the show today to talk about Africa. Africa in perspective. How do we view Africa living in Germany? You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Charles.
Yeah, it's our own continent in perspective. So first we begin about asking ourselves, has Africa prepared herself to face the next pandemic or epidemic? Have we as Africans, our leaders, does the voter in Africa know the effect of pandemic or epidemic? And how prepared are we coming from that continent?
Okay. Yeah, looking at the pandemic itself, how it unfolded in Africa, it really showed how unprepared we were for this particular setup. You look at the food situation, you look at our health facilities, they could not cope with the challenges that we actually face. So you look at even the number of hospital beds that we have in total versus the population. So we have very low hospital beds, and we also have a challenge right now in that we are experiencing a very big brain drain. Most of our nurses are actually going to Europe, particularly the UK. So this actually creates another problem if we are going to have another wave, which is as big as the one we currently experience. So in terms of preparation now, this actually creates a very big problem for our governments, because they actually have to start with training more health personnel. Experts. Yeah, and we also now go on to the next part where we also look at the food situation that we just mentioned. So the situation of the food showed us that we really are not capacitated enough to, let's say, because we couldn't have the normal distribution channels that we use importing from the other countries, because there was this lockdown. So this is another area that we actually need to look at, regional food development.
Regional food development.
Yes.
So you're looking at it from the perspective of a bloc, let's say West African countries or East African countries, having a policy about food production.
Yeah, and also even within the country itself, that if it's the region of the
Takoradi.
Yeah, the Takoradi region, yeah, and
Accra region.
Yeah. So this region should actually be able to at least to produce something that is sufficient, maybe not exactly for the whole place, but then maybe the deficiency should be at least maybe manageable.
What about we having more measures on sanitation as a continent?
Yeah.
What about we having more research centers? Because to face the next pandemic, just as you said, we need more people in the health sector. We need more research centers.
Exactly.
We need measures on sanitation. I mean, that should be the way forward for Africa. Or what do you think?
Yes, definitely this issue of the facilities. We should actually have, for instance, we talk about vaccination developing centers, for example. So this is actually something that we as Africa should actually have, because we actually witnessed this. We were waiting for drugs, actually donations for that matter, that maybe the Chinese shall donate, and maybe, but you know how it is, when it comes to life and death, people actually look to their own.
We are always at the receiving end.
Yes.
Africa is not proactive. We are waiting for China, the Americans, the Australians to bring us PPEs.
Yes.
We're waiting for funds.
To come.
Ourselves have no measures and plans to face the pandemic, and we have not even thought of the next pandemic or epidemic. But Bill Gates has told you and I that soon we should be ready for another serious pandemic. That is good to discuss. You mentioned about medicine or drugs. What happened to the one from Madagascar? During these times of pandemic, we had Madagascar, a country in Africa. I mean, a small island in Africa has been able to produce a drug or a medicine. What happened to that?
Right. Yeah, there was so much hype about it, especially within the African circles, and some governments also rushed to get consignments. But again, we come to this aspect of our facilities. So if we cannot demonstrate whether this vaccine or whether this drug can really work, because that was the question, whether it's something really effective or it's something that is just a gimmick. And without these proper clinical trials, and it might be a bit difficult to prove the efficacy of this particular drug. But that's also part of the problem, because then truly, if the vaccine would have come from Africa, would it have been accepted within the other sectors? That's the other question that we probably would need to answer. And it might be difficult to have an answer now to say, okay, would people really say the drug from discovered in the Congo for COVID would be beneficial for Germany, for Japan? Would they accept?
Isn't it a question of efficacy? Why don't we? Yes, a drug or a medicine could be coming from Congo or Madagascar, but if the efficacy rate is low, these people wouldn't get it. I mean, they wouldn't buy it. But if the efficacy rate of that medicine or drug was so good, then they have no option to tell Africans that we shouldn't accept that medicine produced in Africa.
But you see, this is the challenge that we have, Charles. We have a scenario where most of the drugs actually come from Africa. The drugs that are used, for instance, the medication comes from the rainforest, etc. But the patents then are done in Europe. But the medicine actually comes from Africa, but the patent comes from Europe. So this is what I'm saying. Would it be acceptable that this has actually come from Africa?
Yeah.
This is another challenge.
If they erase that tag, if they erase that African thing, and focus on the efficacy, the efficacy on the medicine, I think such medicine or drug should be accepted. As we speak, Ghana and Kenya have made strides when it comes to medicine production or drug production to fight this pandemic. But guess what? The facility to produce this medicine or drug is being funded by the German government.
This is where I have a challenge. That's why I'm saying we actually need to be proactive, because the moment that we continue to have this kind of approach, this is where I'm saying the moment we are going to say, oh, we have then discovered this, how can you discover without us? Because all this time it was us helping you. So how then did you manage to come up with something on your own? So this is where my question is.
I get you.
My point.
I get you. Let's talk about Africa. We are viewing Africa living in Germany. As we sit here in Europe, how do we see Africa? One major thing to talk about in Africa is insecurity. The insecurity in Africa is so much. The coup d'etat, the bandits issue in Nigeria, the Al-Shabaab in Kenya and its regions, sub-regions. Talk about the ISIS that is taking entrenched position in some of these bandit situations in Africa. What is the way forward? Because we shouldn't sit unconcerned. We shouldn't say Boko Haram is in Nigeria, so Ghanaians are safe, or Togolese are safe, or Liberians are safe. The next day, it could be you.
The next country,
There was one Ghanaian diplomat. He was in Kenya, and in a shopping mall, he got killed. Some mobsters or bandits entered the shopping mall, and by the time he realizes it was a gun thing happening, and he died as a result of that.
Yeah.
So insecurity in Nigeria should be taken as insecurity in Ghana or in Zimbabwe. It's like justice. Justice everywhere or injustice everywhere is same for everywhere. You shouldn't say because it's happening in Zimbabwe, Ghanaians should sit unconcerned. How do we tackle insecurity in Africa? And to tackle everything, there should be a root cause. What is the root cause of some of this insecurity or bandit issue in the sub-region?
Right. We know the major problem that we actually have with banditry activity and insecurity in general. The root problem, in my view, actually lies with regional inequality. So by regional inequality, we are looking at the differences in regions that we see in terms of development. So within even a country, we actually notice that some regions are more developed than other regions. So what happens then, this creates an animosity amongst peoples within a country. And then we talk about these issues where people then want to rise against probably the government of the day because they see that there's this kind of unfairness, that our region continues not to have water, yet the other regions probably are benefiting more from the resources that are within the country. And this is what we see in a variety of our countries. We see this in Sudan until the northern Sudan, and then now we have southern Sudan. So there was always this civil war.
Yeah, the situation of South Sudan and North Sudan got to a point that the Pope has to call the two parties
to intervene. Yeah.
To interfere.
Yeah.
I mean, how does it get to that?
Exactly. So
it's like a continent that has no vision or mission. So we just don't know what we are doing.
So that is the problem, that this regional inequality actually causes then people to rise. You go into Nigeria, we have people in the south complaining that they are not getting resources from the cake of the petroleum that actually comes from the southern area.
So it boils down to the poverty gap. It boils down to inequality.
Yes, we also see this in South Africa.
And it's also another matter of this whole issue of insecurity or Boko Haram or Al-Shabaab or ISIS is being discussed from the perspective of the politician.
Yep.
It's been discussed from politicians' perspective and not as
the population.
It's like, excuse me, during campaign period, you have one party making promises. Oh, when I come, I will fight these bandits. And you have belief in that. You're hoping that that will work. And that party comes to power, and the party is not able to fight the bandits situation in your country. Why don't we shift from that angle or that perspective? The fight against bandits in the West African bloc should not be a sole prerogative of the politician.
And you mean the people should also be involved?
Should be involved
in this.
Because it shouldn't be a manifesto thing. I know parties win power to form government, and once you have formed government, you think about security of the nation,
not of the party.
Not of the party. So you usually hear people talking about, I'll combat this bandit, I'll fight this bandit. But the issue to combat the bandit should not be discussed from the political perspective. It boils down to the inequality. Let's take Nigeria.
Yeah.
The issue of Boko Haram could be as a result of that disproportion. That disproportion when it comes to the sharing of resources. How good do these politicians use the resources in Nigeria, the oil money, for the citizenry?
Yeah.
It's like some few people are enjoying the oil money, and the masses are suffering.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you have the bandit situation? Look at Burkina. Why wouldn't you have coup d'etat in Burkina? Look at Guinea.
Yeah.
Same situation. Like few people mismanaging the economy, but they are enjoying. So when we don't address the inequality gap, I mean the poverty gap, if we don't address the inequality in our regions, in our countries, if we don't stop the misuse of resources, the corruption, then the issues of bandit or insecurity will never be a thing of the past. It will never be a thing of the past. Let's tackle poverty gap. Let's deal with the inequality in our countries.
Yep.
Let's stop mismanagement. Let's reduce corruption to the barest minimum. To the barest minimum.
Yeah, and probably the other thing that we could also talk about would be even external interference. We also have a challenge that, for instance, we have places like the DRC. There's so much interest in the DRC. We have involvement of international countries that actually come. Some actually support the rebels with ammunition, etc., etc. And this actually continues to further stoke this problem of insecurity within these regions. Until we now know that they would say the Great Lakes region is a troubled region. But you also have then, where are they getting their arms from?
The politician, I mean, as I said earlier, these issues are discussed from the perspective of the politician. That is why when the party, one party is in opposition, they will take arms and ammunition. Are you getting me? That's why the government in power will also find some means to tell you, I can combat this problem. So the politician speaks the language of the common man. We can't fight these bandits. Let's know the root cause. Why are people calling themselves bandits? Are they having some proposals? Can we meet the proposals? Is it about how you use the lithium deposit in Zimbabwe? Is it about how you use the oil in Nigeria? Is it about how you use the gold and diamond, lithium, timber in Ghana? Is it about how you use the black granite in Zimbabwe? Zimbabwe has discovered a black granite. You already have lithium deposits. So if you misuse this and one day a group rise up and call themselves bandits, who is to blame? Because we do not share the resources accordingly.
Yeah, there is need for
so to
sharing.
fight bandit, to stop the activities of bandit, should not be political.
Yeah.
It should be around. It's a national agenda. It's a round table discussion. If possible, we take their proposals. We ask what are they looking for. And I can tell you, these guys are looking for nothing done. Do the right thing. Do the right thing has been the concern of these bandits. Share the oil money well. Share the lithium money well. Share the gold, timber, black granite money well. That is all they're seeking for. Are you getting me? We're going for a break. When we come back, we talk about Africa living in Germany. How do we see Africa? We'll be right back. So Africa in perspective. How do we view our dear Africa living in Germany? Let's talk about the economy. How do we fix our economies? Here, I'm not talking about Zimbabwe alone. I'm not referring to Ghana alone. I'm referring to Sub-Saharan Africa. Or you can even talk about those in those countries up there, in Morocco, Algeria, Egypt, Libya. How do we fix our economies?
The issue of economies is a big problem. We have numerous issues that are connected with the economy. We talk about the debt situation that we have towards multilateral lenders, such as the World Bank, the IMF. We owe these institutions a lot of money, right? So we also have situations that are connected to weather, such as agriculture, for example. And so in terms of then how to tackle the problem of our economies, we then have to look into these various issues. So one thing that we actually find is that the majority of people that actually have maybe the best expertise that we have in Africa are actually leaving Africa. So that presents one challenge. And the main reasons why they are actually leaving is so that they actually have sort of maybe a better lifestyle, etc., etc. But coming back to the question, how to address the economy, right? So we have a number of issues. For instance, one major issue that we actually have to look into is infrastructure development.
Infrastructure development.
So when we look at the infrastructure, we are talking about even the road connection itself within our countries, even between different countries. So you will find that sometimes the just trade is actually affected because there is no connection somehow. Probably there is a river which is wide and we don't have a bridge, and people can't actually do the trade that they could have done, and probably have to use an alternative route which is actually taking more distance, etc., etc. So infrastructure development actually remains the major problem that we actually face. So infrastructure,
talk about roads, the rail network,
rail network,
hospitals.
Yes. So, but then still,
internet issues.
Internet issues. But still, if we just develop our infrastructure without taking into account our people, excuse me, we actually face another problem that currently you find, like in South Africa, many people are dismantling the railway system as we speak. There was a very good infrastructure in South Africa. In many other countries also, I mentioned that the rail system was actually functional.
What is happening? They pick the steel to go and sell?
Yes, exactly. Because of poverty, someone just thinks, the signal, I could take the signals from the railway and I can go and sell them elsewhere, even for whatever, just a plate of food, right? So imagine the signals actually help both the train, the motorists, those signals are actually removed, right? And then, so this is the scenario. We need the infrastructure, but we also have to take into account that the people also need their lifestyles or their livelihoods to be improved at the same time.
But provided the infrastructure, one way or the other, will create jobs for the people. Like if you want to construct roads or rail network, if you want to build hospitals or schools, if you want to establish state-owned companies, building it alone creates jobs. And after building this infrastructure will also create jobs. You have artisans getting some job to do. And if you build hospital, you have people who have finished nursing programs or medicine courses having job to do. And many more. Are you getting me? The biggest problem in Africa has been infrastructure.
So
doing that can create jobs for people. Are you getting me?
Definitely.
And one thing that we shouldn't forget is the internet infrastructure. Africa still sits unconcerned about internet issues.
The fourth revolution is really too ahead of us. We're still in the first revolution. This one.
So we should focus on developing our infrastructure network, the infrastructure in Africa, which can also be a means of creating jobs for the people in Africa. What about industrialization? We're talking about China, Europe, America, almighty America. It's all about industrialization.
So
do you see anything like a plan to industrialize Africa?
Right. I would say yes and no. Okay. The scenario is when we talk about industrialization, we are talking about equipment, technology, and in most cases there's this technology transfer that is actually required for things to work out in that area. So what we now realize is for instance, we saw with the drugs, that the vaccines that were actually being developed, right? And then there was a call, okay, can we have the knowledge transferred so that we can make our own vaccine? And that was actually, the patents were actually like locked up, and it was difficult for this to happen. But this would have helped to make the vaccines affordable.
You mean the medicines, right?
The medicines, yes. So, the vaccine itself because the technology behind the vaccine was not shared, the knowledge. So they just kept whatever knowledge that they had. If this knowledge would have been passed on to Africa, they can make their own vaccines. But now the knowledge was kept to themselves, right? So what I'm saying is, so for us then, for instance, we need machinery for, it might be food processing, machinery for car manufacturing, etc. So there are patterns for this, right? We have to buy this technology. Or
there should be some focus on agribusiness.
Food processing, etc., etc. So for us to obtain these things, we have two options. We either have to say, okay, the investors come into the country with their technical expertise, etc. We partner up. That's one avenue of going in. Or we can actually buy this technology on our own. But knowing that the investment climate, because of this instability we talked about, still all these things kind of are connected. And the moment they remain separated, like we have on one end there is no peace, on one end we need the technology, things won't really gel.
Still on the economy of Africa, how we can grow or how we can fix the economies. Have you thought of common currency, common market, common passport? Do you think they will help?
Yeah.
Or do you think the time is now for Africa to have common market, common currency, and if possible, a common passport?
Right. I think the aspect of the common market is really topical. Right. So you will find we are talking about, let's say, food distribution across Africa. So you might find that in one region there is quite plenty of probably one type of food or etc. And in another part there is probably a shortage. But because the
one region has the capacity to produce more.
Yeah.
Let's say Zimbabwe can produce more rice.
For example, yes.
And Ghana can produce more cassava.
And then, yes, this...
and Zimbabweans need more cassava, but their land is not able to produce more cassava.
Exactly.
And let's say Ghanaians need more rice, but the land in Ghana is not able to produce more rice.
Yes.
So we can have this kind of trade.
Yes, but then the problem has been that the trade was not inter-Africa. Like we were not trading within Africa.
Intra.
Yes, intra-Africa. So it has been like even the road network, the rail network has not been linking to African countries, but going to the port and then off to, to the...
because the big man wants your food, the big man wants your resources. So all major roads lead to the ports.
Yes.
All big rail networks lead to the ports and the airports.
Yes.
Because that is where they can come for your food and stuff and whatever.
And then very few of the...
So intra-Africa, we need to focus on developing our infrastructure. There should be a rail network right away from Ghana to Sudan, because there's no major river.
Yeah.
There is no big sea anywhere. They are landlocked countries.
Also, which need also this
they are landlocked. So why can't we have a good infrastructure so that we can have common markets?
Exactly.
We can sell Ghanaian goods in Zimbabwe or Uganda or Somalia or Sudan, South Africa.
Yeah.
Are you getting me? The only major river that can disturb road network or road construction is the Nile. And the Nile cannot stop some of this agenda.
Yeah. Well.
So why can't we have a good infrastructure in Africa? Even with the Nile, we can put on a rail network or a road network. It's just a matter of, I see some people sitting down unconcerned as a people of a continent.
Yeah, we've taken a backseat. Like you're talking about the industrialization. Right now we're talking of the fourth industrialization. And then you actually realize that in terms of information itself, the penetration of mobile phones is actually gone up in Africa. Well, it's really gone up. But in terms of data, in terms of connectivity for data is still low. So, but we need to push this up and access the because it's an information age that we are actually currently. So this is the part that actually needs to actually be developed further.
Yeah.
And
yeah. So the issue of common market is realistic.
Yeah. Definitely.
It's possible. Can be achieved now.
Yeah, because already
just put in place the infrastructure and kickstart. The issue of common currency can be done in next 2 years. What is currency? Are you getting me? The issue of passport, that is even the worst of all.
Yeah.
That Africa, now as we speak, cannot even boast of common passport.
Yeah.
That can allow me to travel to Zimbabwe or South Africa or Algeria or Egypt or Libya.
Yeah.
There are some borders that are, I mean, these borders are preventing integration. So integration within Africa is even poor.
Yeah.
Trade and business within Africa is also poor because of lack of what? Infrastructure. Because of lack of the commitment on the part of our leaders to help get this thing in place. A common currency, common passport shouldn't take years.
Yeah, that's how.
Maybe common market could take years because of lack of infrastructure. But common passport and common currency should not be something that we should struggle.
Definitely.
Or kill our souls for them. I see two things. The politicians in Africa have two weapons. Poverty and ignorance. The politicians in Africa always sell these weapons free of charge to the voter. So the politician or the leaders want you to be ignorant, so you sit unconcerned.
Yeah.
The politician wants you to be look apologetic. The politician in Africa wants you to look apologetic. I mean, to be begging all the time. And therefore, they've widened the poverty gap. When I'm so rich and you are so poor, you always look begging. You always come to beg for something. And that is where I can show you my powers. That is where I can call myself the big boss. Yeah. Vote for me once again and I will help you. So the politician has two weapons, ignorance and poverty. Let me widen up the poverty gap so that you always look apologetic. I mean, begging all the time. And let me make sure you remain ignorant. That is what is happening in Africa, that continent. And sometimes I blame the ordinary voter. I don't blame the politician so much. Because we have gotten to know the ways of the politician.
Yeah.
We've gotten to know the ways of our leaders. It is not left for the voter in Africa. It is not left for Africans at large to decide the fate of Africa. What is good for this continent? Because it's not working when we want to rely on the politician. Are you getting my point? The voter is always relying on the politician, thinking something good will come. And these people have failed.
So in other words, there's maybe need for voter education.
There's a need for high voter education. There is a need for high voter education. In some regions or in some countries, these leaders don't even care putting up schools. Because when you become educated, you begin to check or call for checks and balances. But when you sit unconcerned, you will never call for checks and balances. That is what I call deep ignorance. Then the issue of the poverty gap is when you're always poor, I'm always your master.
Yeah.
When I make sure you are always poor, I'm always your master. That is the disease, the big disease in Africa now. So, viewers, this is where we would like to draw curtains on today's show. We can make it. Africa can develop. Africa can develop. We can make Africa great. We can have good economies in Africa. It's all about the infrastructure, the job creation, how we can industrialize Africa. Good rail network, the roads, the hospitals, the schools, universities, the internet infrastructure is also of concern. The issue of common currency, common market, common passport are all important for us to do now. Now, the issue is now and not in 10 years' time. When they meet at AU and ECOWAS, you hear in 15 years' time, in 20 years' time. But like I said, the machine to print passport is not something to be invented.
It's there already.
It is there already. So which country's leader is saying, I will not allow my people to take a common passport? Is there any leader? They should tell us that this leader from South Africa or from West Africa or from East Africa says they will not sign a treaty or an agreement that says that all Africans should pick a common passport.
Maybe they should actually have a referendum.
Yes.
We give them now.
It's like we're not so serious about what we want as a people of the continent. And that is our concern. We will end today's show here. We'll bring you another exciting discussion next time when we meet on the show. Thank you for coming on the show, Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you.
Welcome.